Good afternoon, Prime Minister Andersson, dear Magdalena. It's great to meet you here in Brussels so soon after we met in Sweden and just on the eve of the Madrid Summit. Together with Finland, Sweden is our closest partner. We share the same neighbourhood, challenges and values, and the same interest to protect our people and the international rules-based order. Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine has shattered peace in Europe. There is much at stake, so it is even more important that we stand together. That is why I have strongly welcomed the applications made last month by Sweden and Finland to join NATO. We are now working very actively on the next steps in the accession process. You and I have been in close contact these past weeks, and over the weekend we both spoke with President Erdogan. The security concerns of all allies must be taken into account as part of the NATO accession process. Turkey's concerns are legitimate and must be addressed. No ally has suffered more at the hands of terrorists than Turkey, including grievous attacks by the terrorist group PKK. We all agree we must redouble our efforts in the fight against terrorism. That is why, at the summit in Madrid, I have convened a special session devoted to NATO's counter-terrorism efforts. And that is also why Sweden and you personally, Prime Minister, have taken concrete steps in recent days to directly address Turkey's concerns. You have already amended Swedish law. You have launched new police investigations against the PKK, and you are currently looking at Turkish extradition requests. These concrete steps represent a paradigm shift in Sweden's approach to terrorism in a more dangerous and more unpredictable world. We are now working together on an agreement between Sweden, Finland and our ally Turkey to further address security concerns, including around arms exports and the fight against terrorism. Senior officials from Turkey, Finland and Sweden have been meeting at NATO headquarters under my auspices today. This is their second meeting in a week. I'm also grateful that President Erdogan, President Niinistö and Prime Minister Andersson have accepted my invitation to meet together in Madrid tomorrow. That will be a further opportunity to address Turkey's concerns and move forward with NATO accession for Finland and Sweden. Finland and Sweden's applications for NATO membership are historic. Your membership will boost transatlantic security as we face the biggest security crisis since World War II. All allies recognize this. All have made clear that NATO's door remains open, and all allies know that with you and Finland as members, NATO will be stronger. So once again, thank you for coming. Thank you for our meeting, and please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and thank you for receiving me here at the NATO headquarters on the eve of the summit in Madrid. And it's by now has been 4 months since Russia launched an unprovoked, illegal and unjustifiable war against its neighbor, the peaceful and democratic state of Ukraine. But Russia has not beaten Ukraine, but they hope that we will lose focus. They want a war of attrition. But I told President Zelensky last Friday that our support for Ukrainian people should not and will not weaken over time. Because this war is not just a threat against Ukraine. Russia's war has created a far more dangerous reality for Europe, including for Sweden. And this existential threat to European security order will be there for a long time to come, and we must act accordingly. In Sweden, we're just in the middle of the biggest buildup of Swedish defense capabilities since the 50s. and Sweden would reach 2% of GDP as soon as practically possible and by 2028 at the latest. We are right now re-establishing regiments, reinforcing the island of Gotland, reactivating national military service. We are speeding up the defense equipment procurements and strengthening our cyber defense and intelligence capabilities. But we know that's not enough. Building security requires cooperation with others. And therefore, we conducted a 2-month deliberation involving all parties of our parliament. And in broad majority, we came to the conclusions that the best way to protect Sweden and the Swedish citizens is not only to be a friend and a partner, but also an ally in NATO. And in May, Sweden applied for membership, hand in hand with our closest partner, Finland. And with Sweden and Finland as NATO members, the security of all NATO countries will be strengthened, because we will be security providers within NATO. And Sweden would, of course, commit to the Washington Treaty in its entirety, as well as to other NATO doctrines. Our application have received very broad support from NATO allies, and Sweden and Finland fulfills all criteria, but consensus within NATO is required to take Sweden and Finland's applications forward. Our vulnerability to external threats is increased until we formally become members. And in response to this uncertainty, several allies, including the United States, United Kingdom, Germany, France, Spain, Norway, and Denmark, have extended Sweden clear security assurances during this period. For this, we are very grateful. Turkey has raised some questions regarding Sweden and Finland's applications, and our ambition is to come to an understanding on the raised issues together with Finland and NATO. And I spoke with President Erdogan this Saturday, and I would say it was a good and constructive talk. And earlier today, officials from Sweden, Finland, and Turkey met here in Brussels for a new round of talks. And my strong hope is that this dialogue can be successfully concluded in the near future, ideally before the summit. This would make it possible to immediately launch Sweden's and Finland's accession processes. And such an outcome would be good news for Sweden and Finland, but for NATO and the security of Europe. Let me make some things clear. As a member, Sweden will contribute to the security of NATO as a whole, including Turkey, in a spirit of solidarity. We would embrace NATO's 360-degree approach to security. And as presented in my government's extra foreign policy statement, June 10th, Sweden condemns terrorism in the strongest possible terms. We are unequivocally committed to the fight against terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. And as allies, we will be fully committed to NATO counterterrorism policy and take active parts in these efforts. Our stance regarding PKK is crystal clear. It is listed as a terror organization in the European Union and is regarded as such by Sweden. During the last years, we have several times strengthened laws against funding of terrorism. And Sweden's terrorist legislation is undergoing its biggest overhaul in 30 years. A new and tougher Terrorist Offences Act entered into force the 1st of July, with a broadened scope and higher scales of penalties. Moreover, constitutional amendments are being prepared which would have paved the way for criminalization of participation in terrorist organizations. There should be no doubt that Sweden will continue to stand firm alongside other like-minded countries in the fight against terrorism. Our NATO membership will have implications with respect to export control of defense materials to all NATO allies. Alliance solidarity will be reflected within our national regulatory framework. One of the issues raised by Turkey concerns Sweden's response to Turkey's request for extraditions. These matters are handled swiftly and carefully by our legal system in accordance with European Convention on Extradition. Sweden is not and will not be a safe haven for terrorism. The relevant authorities work intensively in order to expel persons who could be a security threat. And there are a substantial number of cases which are currently processed. So, I'm very much looking forward to continuing from here to Madrid and the discussions there with all allied leaders, not at least the President of Turkey. And I'm hopeful that these discussions can pave the way for launching our accession process and put Sweden the next step to the path to NATO membership. This would benefit all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This concludes these press statements. Thank you.
Oh.